welcome to the D List, the show where I list things and my name begins with a D. And today, it's time to rank some songs sung by a sack lunch bunch. Continuing John Mulaney's trend of alternating between stand-up specials for Netflix and other types of specials for Netflix, Sack Lunch Bunch is simultaneously an ironic parody of nostalgic children's shows and a genuine successor to them by sincerely and authentically examining the fears and insecurities of childhood, some of which carry over into adulthood. There is so much to love about this entire special and the way it highlights the best elements of children's entertainment while mocking the worst, and I could spend hours dissecting every sketch, segment, and throwaway line. But today we're going to focus on the songs. As soon as the first All That Jazz teaser was released, we knew the musical numbers would be the big thing to watch for. Mulaney and co-writer Marika Sawyer wrote brilliant lyrics that range from hilarious to heartwarming, all set against incredibly catchy music by Eli Bolin, who had previously collaborated with Mulaney on the equally catchy songs for Co-op and knows a thing or two about composing songs for children's entertainment.
Because you've been doing songs for Sesame Street, for instance, for almost a decade, right?
Almost 10 years now at Sesame Street. And I started up, I was one of the founders of this thing called Story Pirates, where we take stories written by kids and turn them into songs and sketches. The musical touchstones are more like Sesame Street and Carole King's music for Really Rosie.
Really Rosie.
Okay.
Carole King album and eventually television special.
Yes, where she turned a series of Maurice Sendak children's books into songs. And
they were like the type of thing that we right away were like, oh yeah, that was all music and TV when we were kids. Just like hard piano chords, and then like an adult singing about kind of like weird problems with no real solution.
And all the songs for this special ended up being just as catchy and magical as their inspirations. So here's my ranking of all of them.
Can you guess what we're looking at before we zoom out?
Go, Ruby, go, Ruby, go, Ruby.
Oh, I guess this counts as a song because it's on the soundtrack. It's catchy enough. The soundtrack version is longer than the version in the special. It's not really the joke of the scene, it just adds to the texture of the setup, but it's effective as such. Yeah, I'm glad it's there. Let's move on to the real songs now.
There is music here, music there, music everywhere.
Ah, finally, the showdown we've been craving between Mysterio and Spider-Ham. Mr. Music tries to teach the kids that music can come from any number of non-musical objects, but the objects aren't cooperating, driving him deeper and deeper into madness.
Shut in a laundry sack. Subtle sound, let me find something else.
Did you write Mr. Music to be that chaotic, or did Jake Gyllenhaal bring his own chaotic energy?
I think it was a little bit there, but he was more like a little bit more like Sebastian in Little Mermaid. He'd go, oh, Ariel, that kind of like, oh no, I messed it up. Not the like, I said, but I would like you to make as strong a choice as you'd like. And he was quiet, and then he went, oh, okay.
While I respect the bug-eyed insanity Gyllenhaal is bringing to the bit, I do think it's unfortunate that the big finish of the special isn't a number that heavily features the kids. Sure, they come in as the chorus at the end, but this special is at its best when the kids' talents are at the forefront and the adults' comedy is a garnish instead of the other way around. That said, since the special is taking the kids' perspective seriously in its comedy, it is nice that the special goes out on a note of the kids being smarter and more mature than the adults. This is the song that feels most like it could be in an actual children's show, as it builds a catchy tune around the kind of question a curious kid would ask. A question that has an obvious answer, but the kids are still uncertain.
Do Flowers Exist at Night is listed as a song by Actual Thoughts Records at the end of the clip. Whose actual thought was that?
That was my thought, lying in bed, and I was about 8 or 9, and I was like, I have to check. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna go outside and check. And I kept meaning to check, but I always forget. And the whole song is exactly the dilemma. And I feel like that was one I didn't run by, and I just send it. I was on the subway, and
Most other things I feel like we went over the lyrics, and this just came to me fully formed in an email.
Yeah, I was embarrassed to say what do you think of this? So I had Eli. You did a demo. I was like, do this. I'm picturing this
Eye in the Sky.
Eye in the Sky by Alan Parsons Project. Yeah.
I am the eye in the sky, looking at you.
So he told me that as a jumping off point, and so I didn't know that song particularly well, but when I listened to it, I knew what he was going for pretty quickly.
Zell Steele Howard and Oriah El Grabi are in beautiful voice, and they pretty much have to be to hold their own with Shireen Pimentel.
Cool, he's like, I'm gonna send you over the music. I was like, great. And I opened it and it was like, do flowers exist at night? I was like, what did I just get myself into? Okay.
It was like 7 a.m. and you were on the turntable just rotating.
Yeah.
I walked in and I was just like, perfect. She was rotating and singing, and they were both in pajamas, and there was so much fog, and I was so happy.
This one's short without any big comic turns. It just feels right for this sort of kid special.
Zell added, nah, and he widened his eyes, fell backward, and I was like, okay, that's his song.
Transfer is available to the M15 Select Bus Service.
By age 13, I was weary of school. Thought doing your homework was the work of a fool.
John plays a father who brings in Andre DeShields as a one-eyed math tutor whose tutelage begins with a personal story about the importance of knowing algebra. Yeah, kids have complained that their homework will never be useful in the real world for as long as homework has existed, but how better to put a new spin on a classic joke than by mashing it up with a hot new musical?
He was in Hadestown. He is in Hadestown, and he had already won the Tony for it at that point, I think. And we wanted to use that to an extent as a style point. I'm also a big fan of New Orleans music, New Orleans blues, and artists like Dr. John and Professor Longhair. And so there's probably more of that than the Hadestown style in it. When I finally got to meet him, I was so excited because I've been a fan of his since. I listened to The Wiz growing up, and it's just crazy that he's been doing Broadway for so long, since I was a child.
Of course, the song ends up being a Shaggy Dog story, but one with a ton of flair. On principle, I still prefer the songs that heavily feature the super talented kids, and the kids are relegated to backup here, but they are giving it their all as backup. And I appreciate how the special continues to legitimize the kids' perspective. This sequence certainly does capture that paranoia a lot of kids had that every adult we knew was conspiring against us.
With only one eye, I can never look twice.
But when you buy a pair of shades, they're always half price.
Dad, did you rehearse this? I want to play restaurant.
This is another one where the song isn't the joke, but it's a far more essential element to the setup here than it is with Googie, as the turn happens immediately. This is also one of the few pieces in the special that make the adult the POV character instead of the kid, because John just can't resist casting himself as a low-status character in a sketch.
Okay, I'll play restaurant with you. Hi, may I eat dinner at your restaurant?
I'm sorry, we are closed for a private event.
Oh, but the woman
We are
said...
closed for a private event.
Yes, this special's at its best when it's highlighting the kids' perspectives, but maybe Suri Morero's perspective is she just wants to create an authentic restaurant experience. She's a method actor. Her art is all about truth.
It's John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch.
Yep, another theme song. The main one, in fact. Yeah, it's short and it's mostly just a functional theme song that manages to squeeze one joke in there, but that joke has been stuck in my head multiple times a day since watching this. Let's all see what's on kids' minds. The guest star's name is Richard Kind. Play that again. And guest stars too. Well, actually, for guest stars, there's only one. Let's all see what's on kids' minds. The guest star's name is Richard Kind. Play it again. Let's all see what's on kids' minds. The guest star's name is Richard Kind. One more time. This sets the stage for a high-energy good time that the rest of the show absolutely delivers on.
To make a scene at a restaurant, but there's only one meal that I ever want.
It's time for the titular sack lunch, but Orson Hong's having trouble because his meal doesn't have the only food he likes. We all knew, or perhaps were, the kid who is an incredibly picky eater who only likes one food, and some of us are forced to become pickier eaters in adulthood because aging sucks. And an easy comic premise would have been to have a song complaining about a picky eater, but again, this special doesn't want to belittle the kids' perspectives. Taking the picky eater's POV allows the song to explore the frustrations of having such specific taste. Orson isn't trying to be difficult, he wants to break free of this, but he doesn't know if he ever can. But in the meantime, he's gonna sing his heart out about his woes, and what a showstopper it is.
Just want my noodles even though they're not nutritious.
Noodles was so good in my mind that I owed no one an explanation. During pre-production, I was like, first off, you have Noodles, so get ready to have gold records. I'll turn in a script when I'm good and ready.
Dan, clear up the closing doors, please.
Lexi Perkel has prepared a show for the adults, and Mom presents it, but none of the adults really seem to care. And man, is this ever relatable. Every aspiring performer kid had the moment where the adults weren't really taking them seriously, and that's especially hard when you're naturally shy, but you're really proud of the work you put into your presentation. Fortunately, she has one really supportive friend.
Well, I recall an announcement that Lexi's mother just gave.
I love how hard David Byrne has her back here. And yeah, the song has some elements of making fun of things kids do when they put on skits, but the emotional core of the song still sides with the kid, and it respects her passion for her art, even if it doesn't take the art itself seriously. Or maybe it does. Maybe juxtaposing hyperactive kid cliches with the artistry of David Byrne highlights the ridiculousness of those cliches, or maybe it elevates them to a new artistic level. It's kinda hard to tell. Either way, the adults ignoring the kids certainly aren't portrayed favorably. Feeling betrayed by a parent seems to be a recurring theme in this special.
Yeah, I think the line, "pay attention, this is a very big deal," was one that was like, that was not ironic. It was not joking at all. It's like, this is like why you're laughing at me. Like, this is a very big deal to me. And yeah, like, pay attention still hits a real nerve. Because it's like, you know, Mom and Dad, please pay attention.
Grandma's got a boyfriend. Grandma's got a boyfriend. It's a little.
The first big musical number in the special features Jake Ryan Flynn as a young Mulaney talking about his grandma's new beau. And once again, I'm impressed that they didn't go for the obvious perspective on this one. While this easily could have been a song about how weird it is for your grandma to be dating someone, the young John character gets past the weirdness quickly and becomes the first person in the family to accept Paul. He admits that he could go a little farther in communicating with Paul, but he still likes him a lot and he tries to protect him from the more judgmental family members. It's an early look at the sweetness this special has amidst its snark, and the way it respects the maturity of children's emotions instead of reducing them to stereotypes. And sure, the sequence ultimately ends with a dark punchline, but the song itself is pure, open-hearted love, and the tone is just right for the type of children's television special being evoked.
Grandma's boyfriend, Paul, which is sort of a combination of styles. There's, it's like half Really Rosie, specifically this song called One Was Johnny.
One was Johnny. One was Johnny.
And then it's also half sort of Midnight Train to Georgia.
And with such a perfect tone, it's fascinating to learn that the tone could have been very different.
The first draft was sent to me. The style point for that was actually sort of like 80s almost seemed like 80s hair metal. He kept punctuating it with like, "Oh yeah, right on, let's rock." Once I saw the hook, "Grandma's Got a Boyfriend," that was in there a couple of times, just something popped into my head, this sort of call and response idea. And so I just ran with that. And then as we went through it, just as like a filler in places, I started adding some call and response things for the ladies. And John actually kept a bunch of those that I sort of put in as like, "Oh yeah, you can change this later." And then he never changed it.
So the song is not only a testament to the blending of cynicism and sincerity the special would do so well, but also to the power of creative collaboration. Multiple brilliant minds bringing different ideas to the table and blending them into something that no one of them could come up with on their own.
Try to put this list of New York City mayors in order.
Well, there is one New York moment I'll never forget. I saw one lady standing on the street just sobbing, and I think about it once a week.
Oh my god, what a masterpiece. Alex Bello saw Annalay Ashford crying in public 2 years ago, and he wonders what would have happened if he talked to her. Mostly cheering her up by talking about Sherlock Gnomes, he guesses. But it's just a story he's telling himself in order to live. This song has everything. It has humor, it has an emotional core, it is musically magnificent, it is visually beautiful, and it has stunning performances from a superhumanly talented child and adult. The world is full of songs where the singer saw a stranger and regretted not saying anything, but what a refreshing take on the genre. Alex's childhood innocence and enthusiasm is infectious, as he wonders if he could have helped with the lady's loneliness, and maybe his own loneliness as well. This is also the song where the songwriting process was most collaborative.
That's probably my favorite song in the whole special, I have to say. And that song is the one that was written a little differently when that John Merrick and I had a writing session together in a studio. I had very much wanted to write a song with a sort of Laura Nero, Burt Bacharach feel. And we were just like talking, and then I started playing this little riff on the piano, and John sort of jumped on it, and we started improvising around it. The little melody that's like da 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 da. And John really liked that, and he's like, "I want to use that." And then John Merrick took that away and wrote almost a complete lyric to the song from that, which is kind of the reverse of how almost all the other songs were written, where like I was sent a lyric first. I don't know if maybe that's why, like, from a musical standpoint, that song is very satisfying to me. So when we were having auditions, the boy who sings it, Alex Bello, when he started to sing it, it just like was so clear that he should be the one to sing it. He's like, he's 10 years old, but I think his voice is beautiful. I think his acting is incredible. Like, there's this depth to him that I don't know where it comes from, but his performance of that song just kills me.
This song is everything that's great about this special in a wonderful package.
And I will wonder till the end, what if I hadn't walked away with that crying lady be my friend?
And that's my ranking of the songs from John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. But of course, that's only one dork's opinion. Which song was your favorite? Let's discuss this in the comments, and until next time, this is Dave, signing off.